You
And
getting similar responses, or were you getting different responses based on the location? Because it seems to me there's a world of difference between a bus stop on a Monday afternoon and a nightclub queue at midnight on a Friday night, Saturday morning.
yeah, and there was a difference. So nightclub Q, actually, it was very provocative. So a lot of people said that they would commit a crime in that particular. Because everything, as I said, it's all context dependent. I always tell my students that they're way less likely to punch somebody in my lecture hall than they are, just in their student pub down the road, right? So even in a very similar kind of situation within 500 meters of each other, different social settings call for different rules of behavior, but also cultural settings. And my other favorite example is, so I grew up in Russia, and Russia has a very kind of the culture of protecting yourself and protecting the people who are dear to you. So if somebody were to walk up to you in a pub and insult your mother, I'd say the expectation, especially if you're a man, were that you would punch that person. And if you don't, then your friends will look at you and think, oh, you're doing something strange, you're doing something weird. On the other hand, in the UK, and somebody comes up to you and insults you, normally the culture is just shrug and leave them alone and go away and think, well, they need help. So if you were to punch somebody in the Wetherspoons, I guess that does happen, but people would think, oh, are you okay? This random person walked up to you and insulted you, and you've decided to punch him. That's not very normal. So it's all context dependent culturally, but also very specifically within the location.
Have you had the opportunity to compare what you found in terms of your hypothetical study with figures from police, from law enforcement or whatever, as to actually what does happen? Is there any way of seeing if your findings correlate with actually what does happen on the ground? I don't know, do the metrics exist to allow you to do that?
Yeah, you can see. So the problem with police recorded crime is that it's also quite specific, right? So police presence just, changes crime around it. Obviously, you're way more likely to punch somebody when there is not a police officer, if there is somebody standing right behind you. But we know that this is something that happens, and we know that circumstances change. And I'd say we know that environments are really important. And my obvious example is always, say, if I'm sitting in a room all by myself and I'm desperate to punch somebody in the face, but there's just physically nobody here to punch in the face, that I just can't do it. But again, we need to think about, oftentimes we think about crime as, again, a specific person. We think you need to be a specific person to commit a crime, or, there's something about you, which is something different. And that usually stems from the media and the shows. On the other hand, we find that even Jeffrey Dahmer didn't kill anybody for 4 years, right? So there has to be something happened in the circumstance. It could be availability of victims, or it could be a different social norm, or something happened more globally that pushed people to do it. So even the most prolific offenders actually spend very little percentage of their time committing a crime. So there has to be something action dependent in there.
This was very much based on, from what I've read of the survey, it was very much based on people's reactions. Did you do any survey or any investigation into whether people would be proactive, if rather than reacting, if people would actually start something, if people would make the first move, cast the first insult, throw the first punch? Have you had a chance to look at that element of things?
The thing is, we don't exist in a vacuum. Humans don't, we're always reacting to something. At no point are we not reacting to something. And some of the scenarios were quite, so you're referring to the two scenarios, so the bus stop scenario and the nightclub queue scenario, which is violent crime, which is usually what we find interesting. But there's two more scenarios about a dropped wallet. So are you going to steal the money? So say somebody drops the wallet, are you going to take the money? So that I would call proactive, right? You're not necessarily reacting to something. It's just somebody's walking past, they drop the wallet. Are you going to take it? Yes or no? And actually, and it was really interesting because, again, by changing the scenario a bit, you could see a big difference. For example, first, you're presented to just the normal person sitting at the bar and they have some money sticking out. So some people said that they would steal that money, but a lot of people didn't. And then you present them with the same scenario, and this person who's sitting at the bar, they insult the bartender. So, they're behaving rather rudely. And then a lot more people were to steal money from that person. So even when the perceived rudeness is not directed towards the person themselves, it changes the likelihood of people saying yes or no in a hypothetical scenario.
So they would make a moral judgment on the person, and whether the person deserved to be stolen from or not would be based on that moral judgment.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying about that we commit crime in the right circumstances, because oftentimes we'll say, I'm not stealing money, I'm punishing this person for being a bad person, I'm not doing a bad thing. Or people, punching somebody in a nightclub queue saying, well, I had to punch this person because they broke a rule. They insulted me for no reason, even though I'm just standing here in a queue. And our desire to punish a violation of a social norm is really, really high. And my favorite example of all time is the bin gate, from the Great British Bake Off. When the woman took out somebody's ice cream and it melted, and the other contestant then, threw the ice cream in the trash. And so many people went on Twitter to insult the old lady who just, took somebody's ice cream out for 10 seconds. Even though it's a baking show that none of us have any personal investment in, but we are really engaged with punishing a violation of a social norm.
Right. It's fascinating. And you also found, and we're going to finish on a positive, you also found where people may react to negativity with negativity. People also were, if they were presented with kindness or presented with positivity, they would also react the same way. So if you are shown kindness, you'll react with kindness.
Yeah. And we usually do. And we're highly cooperative species, right? And that's something that I found, that normally we cooperate a lot. We're really nice to each other. And I know some people think that, it's all wolf eats wolf, it's all eye for an eye. People are all out to get, stuff for themselves. But that's actually not true. We cooperate a lot. We cooperate by, keeping voices down in the library, or, not pushing past each other, or, everybody talks about how the UK is very good at queuing. And we do actually cooperate with each other a lot. And if you put people in the right circumstances, they will cooperate with you. Because if you're kind to people, they tend to be kind to you.
Dr. Evelyn Svengen, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning from the University of Birmingham, Associate Professor of Criminology. Evelyn, thank you very much indeed. That was rather interesting and food for thought indeed. Now, our competition was in relation to free membership for Fit 20. The question, who won the Women's World Cup? Was it Spain or was it Ireland? The answer, of course, was Spain. Our winner today is Mario Donal in Mulroy Park in Carrigart. So Mario O'Donnell, Mulroy Park in Carrigart is today's winner. Mario, you go into that draw, and on Friday we will draw the winner. Time for a short break. Back after these.
The 9 till noon show in association with Fit 20 Letterkenny. Get fitter and stronger in just 20 minutes. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. Increase strength at any age. Visit fit20.ie to book your free session.
Enter the Virgin Media Playhouse and unleash our best offers. It's time to play with our €100 gift voucher to spend your way when you choose full fibre 500 meg broadband for just €39 a month for 12 months and no activation fee. So switch today at virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media. It's playtime.
T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie. Subject to location and availability. New customers only. 12-month contract. 500 meg broadband. €70 thereafter. Ends October 11th, 2023.
There's always a feeling of anticipation when you sit into a new car. That excitement. You admire its smooth lines, its class-leading technology, its spacious interior. You find yourself sitting comfortably in its sculpted seat. You can sense this one is different. It's electric, charged with attitude, pumped with energy. You've made the right choice. The Opel Mokka Electric. Test drive it today at Heron Auto Opel. See heronopel.ie for details.
Century Complex is the perfect family day out. Kids will love exploring Century Play. Lots of tasty options available at Backstage Bar and Grill. And at Century Cinemas, we're showing entertaining kids' movies, action and adventure movies, dramas and more. Call us on 07491 21976 or visit centurycinemas.ie.
Hi folks, Paul McDevitt here, inviting you to join myself and Jimmy Stafford this Monday night for another edition of the Monday Night Sessions. On the show this week, we welcome our Dra singer-songwriter Gary Mangan. Local singer Keelan Barrett will also be dropping in for a chat and a few songs. And with the Glenties Harvest Fair just around the corner, we'll be chatting to some of the organisers and artists about this amazing event. So that's the Monday Night Sessions this Monday night between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. right here on Highland Radio.
It's the 9 till noon show into the final few minutes. Donal Kavanagh standing in for Greg on the show today. Greg making his way back from London after a very successful programme from the London Irish Vintage Show yesterday. And Greg back on the show as normal tomorrow. At the start, when we were doing our review of the papers, we referenced that Competition and Consumer Protection Commission confirmation that the research it's carried out into pensions has revealed some concerning gaps. The survey showed 1 in 10 45 to 64-year-olds don't have a pension, and pension ownership among the 45 to 54-year-old group stands at 76%. That's a sharp decline since 2022. Joined on the line by Muriel Dolan, who's Deputy Director of Communications with the CCPC. Muriel, good morning.
Good morning, Donal.
Muriel, the fact that a lot of people don't have pensions in that age group is going to be a worrying one, because we know the proportion of older people to younger people in the state is going to grow in the coming years. And when people don't have provision, it's potentially going to put a lot of pressure on the state in years to come.
Yes, it is. And that age group, I suppose, to say at the outset, it's never too late to start. And that's what I want to get across to your viewers this morning. That, 1 in 10 of the over 45s currently don't have a pension, but it's never too late to start, because we have seen that a lot of people are now going to use other forms of income for their pensions rather than putting it into a pension. For example, 57% of people said they were going to use deposits or savings. What we would say to those people as well is that putting it into a pension makes much more sense. It's much better value for money because you get good tax relief on it. It also goes into long-term savings, so you have compound interest building up. And also with a lot of companies where you have pensions, your employer might pay into it as well. So there's all of those advantages of putting it into a pension. So it's never too late to start. So any of your listeners listening in this morning, to haven't started a pension, it's really time to think about it now and to start saving into a pension.
There have been a number of initiatives over the years where, as you say, schemes were developed where the person would pay in and employers would pay a certain amount in as well. I mean, is it time perhaps for the government to look at introducing a similar system again to try and boost the numbers, particularly those perhaps from the late 20s to the 40s, because if the sooner you can get this started, the sooner, the better your prospects are going to be in years to come. I mean, is there a role here for government to bring in another sort of targeted scheme?
Well, there is, and they are looking at this. They're looking at auto enrolment, and that will hopefully be introduced the second half of next year. So that means that there's certain criteria. You have to be earning over 20,000. You will be automatically enrolled into a pension, but also your employer will have to pay contributions into it as well. So we feel that this is really going to be a game changer for trying to set people up for when they retire. Because as you said, like the state pension may not be enough to sustain the lifestyle that you need or you want in retirement. So that's why it's so important that the government look at this. But it's also so important for people to review their pension, because sometimes it's sometimes very natural, I have that box ticked to have a pension. But if you don't review it over your lifetime, you don't know if it's going to be sufficient for what you want in retirement, because your needs can change. Maybe when you took out your pension, you weren't married, you hadn't children. Now you have children, you have a mortgage and all of that. And that's really, really important. Like, for example, I know that if my kids go to college, that I will be retired by the time they're in college. So I'm thinking of that now to make sure that I will have enough in my retirement to be able to help them, because I'll basically still have 2 dependents at that time. So reviewing your pension is so important, because as I said, your different things change in your life and you might have different commitments or different responsibilities when it comes to retirement.
the fact that many people, 1 in 4 of those that don't have pensions say, I mean, basically they simply can't afford it. That's going to be concerning. But maybe the auto-enrolment is one way of getting around that at least they make some contribution, and the fact that their employer will make a contribution as well, that will maybe help build up that pension pot, and certainly will be better than not having anything at all.
Yes, absolutely, and I think it will help. And when you're paying into it, it just kind of focuses you, and then you know you have it, and then it's just not to forget about it, and that's really, really important. Because yes, you're paying into a certain amount, but you might have different needs in retirement, and you might have to increase your contributions. And one thing we do say to people as well is if you get an increase in your salary, or if you get a bonus, before you get used to that money, maybe put that into your pension. So increase your pension that way, your contributions to your pension, or even part of it would be good, because you haven't got used to that money yet. So, put it into your pension, because you'll get tax relief on it as well, and also you're building up that income for when you retire.
Muriel Dolan, Deputy Director of Communications with the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. I'm afraid time has beaten us. That is the 9 till noon show for this morning. A very special thank you to all our contributors. Thanks to Caroline Orr for producing and for taking your calls. Most importantly, thanks to you for listening. Greg's back tomorrow, but for myself, Donal, have a very good day.
The 9 till noon show in association with Fit20 Letterkenny.